In 2016, I had one of my most bipolar relationships with gaming as a whole. I was playing League of Legends more than is healthy, meaning I was probably in the bottom 5% of player activity. Naturally, League gave me plenty of miserable gaming experiences that I really ought to bring up in therapy a time or two, but it did give me one thing. League gave me Bard. I'm a lot of things as a gamer, but I am a support player in my heart. We all have our flings with assassins, we all feel the delightful pain that is playing a backline carry, but support is the one thing I always find myself sinking hundreds of hours into with a smile on my face. But why Bard? A conditional stun, the weakest heal in the game, and some janky-ass portal that serves to feed a passive that forces you to abandon your laner. But why Viscus? I have a question for you to reflect upon. This is just a you question, so answer honestly. How important is creativity to you? Creativity and reliability oftentimes find themselves at odds, so it's totally okay if your answer to this question is it's not. Viper's abilities are really quite linear. Their jobs are clear. You will be attacking enemies with your myriad of ways to disable them so as to crank that big-ass piece as long and hard as possible. That's what they will be. The coding in the game simply lacks any other way for the abilities to interact with the game. As a consequence, you get the beautiful simplicity of you will slide good forever, and just point and click this on the bad guys. When you've played 10 hours of Viper, you've probably thrown dozens of bolas and shot 1,000 clips. When you've played 100 hours of Viper, you can probably slide through the map with your eyes closed. You're well practiced, greatly acquainted with the linear applications of her abilities, and if this sounds like your jam, you're probably in a class of gamers listed as refiners rather than innovators. But what does it mean to be an innovator? Listen, I'm going to be honest. I never know exactly what's going to happen whenever I press 3 on Viscus. However, despite this, I find myself naturally flowing my 3 into much of anything I do while running around New York. On paper, this ability does some damage, applies some displacement, and has your allies usually listed as unfortunate casualties. And yet, innovation is defined as the process of creating, implementing, or improving new ideas. When you play 7, your 2 is going to stun an enemy gamer. There's marginally more innovation here than with Viper because the number of targets you stun varies per cast. However, the ability will never do anything other than interact with your opponents. After 10 hours of 7, you probably have the cast range of the ability down to a science. After 100 hours of 7, you can probably dismantle entire teams with AoE CC. What does it mean to have more innovation? To keep it real with you, I still don't have a clear list of the most optimal usages of Viscus's 2. It could be valuable lane sustain, but baiting the enemy and saving your teammate is simply invaluable. To what extent is cubing an ally just a bad idea? I mean, I could protect them by cubing myself between them and the enemy. Removing the agency of an ally is such a steep cost for the... When an ability's application is unclear, it is afforded more scenarios wherein it is applicable. Bebop has a most pleasant degree of innovation over refinement in his kit. I mean, he's Blitzcrank, right? I mean, yeah, he is, but can Blitzcrank turn retreating enemies into AoE nukes? This begs a unique question. If Blitzcrank could pull his own teammates, how substantially would it change him? Every single time I've casted Viscus's ult, I've developed a little bit more of an appreciation for it. It's a nightmare to control, it makes you easy to hit, and it does such disappointing damage for it to pay the price of silencing your other abilities, but it draws attention, it increases how threatening you are, and it gives you a high APM way to rotate usefulness while your abilities are on cooldown. None of this shit shows up on the scoreboard, and unfortunately, I love shit that doesn't show up on the scoreboard. No, my drawing attention doesn't give me damage blocked like I'm playing Reinhardt, but protecting a carry in a teamfight might single-handedly win the game. Contributing with these innovator abilities isn't really even a skill in the same way that Viper's casting is. Contributing optimally with characters like Bard and Viscus is developing your ability to engage in super abstract problem solving. It's not about how good you are at applying a singular solution. It's about looking around the fight and creating the new, first ever seen application of a new solution. Bard's ability text doesn't tell you that you can juke people with his portal. Applying the speed boost of picking up one of his passive chimes amidst kiting a threatening enemy isn't going to regularly be the best or most obvious way to approach a situation. But that's not what being good at him requires. The text on Viscus's cube doesn't tell you that you've bought extra real estate within the minds of your opponents. Wasting the cooldown can, while assuming little to no risk, bait an overextension to enable a roam. Puddle Punch doesn't mention that you can move allied and enemy troopers, allowing a degree of 4-dimensional wave control to the especially creative mind. So sometimes what I want out of gaming is practicing the same loop forever. Sometimes I want my obsession with perfection to grind a level, a matchup, or a character down to a predictable and reliable stump. But more often than that, I want to come up with my own solution. More often than that, I want to help my teammates with a solution grounded in fun just as much as it's grounded in effectiveness. Because at the end of the day, supporting your allies provides a dramatically different player fantasy, and it's one that puts a smile on my face.